Alright, so bear with me here, because I'm going to tell you something shocking, something mind-blowing, something not many people can handle. So bear with me. The Nintendo Switch, yes, the Nintendo Switch, does not, I repeat, does not have a pack-in title.
And it officially hit its 5th year on the market. Double. But yes, while it might seem crazy to all of us Nintendo fans that Nintendo's newest home console / handheld gaming platform has been available for half a decade, truly shocking to us all, 5 years is a long time. You could get from your first year of middle school to your junior year of high school during that time. Psst, I'm only saying that because that was actually what happened with me. Keep that between us, alright? However, despite not actually getting a Switch when it first launched, I still have a lot of fond memories of the system, whether it was seeing all the reviews for the system, watching the presentation Nintendo held for the system in January 2017 for the 5th time, and just watching all the trailers for the games that excited me the most. I don't know how Nintendo did it, but they actually managed to get me very nostalgic of the Nintendo Switch despite not actually owning the damn system. The only thing that could rival the same special memories of the Nintendo Switch for me was the Nintendo Wii. And man, I adore the Nintendo Wii, just as much as the next guy. But I also adore the Nintendo Switch as well, that just makes me love both systems equally. So, to commemorate half a decade of Nintendo's best-selling home console being, well, a thing, I thought I'd do the unthinkable. Talk about 5 big events that happened in the Switch era within the past 5 years. And before you ask, I didn't run out of topics to discuss, I just couldn't find anything else to talk about for the 5-year anniversary of the Nintendo Switch. Leave me alone. "2019 was a great year for gaming. That was when the Switch Lite released, Luigi's Mansion 3, a sequel to one of the best Mario spin-off games ever, and even Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now sure, not everything that released in 2019 was massive, but easily one of the biggest things to come from 2019 was most certainly BanjoKazooie becoming one of the big new DLC fighters for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. After almost 20 years of Banjo not being on a Nintendo platform, it was truly great to have the duo back. Even if it wasn't the games themselves, that wouldn't come until 2.5 years later, and only people who are members of Switch Online's new expansion pack for access to it. But hey, they're in Smash now, and they feel great. It simply took the world by storm, even if it was still just a new fighter reveal for Smash Bros. But it was just simply shocking to see the Bear and Bird duo from the Nintendo 64 days back on a Nintendo platform in over a decade. And if there's ever another Smash Bros. In the future, then I don't think any other fighter reveal would be as impactful as this one. All we need now is Steve from Minecraft. Holy 2018 may have been heavily focused on Smash Bros. For a good majority of the year, but that didn't stop Nintendo from announcing other non-Smash Bros. Related games on Switch. For example, Nintendo Switch Online, which, I wouldn't really say this is a game, but still. Nintendo's first paid online-based service on the Nintendo Switch. By paying $20 a year, you get access to online play, which works well in some games, but works poorly in others. Cloud saves, which are good to have, definitely gives players less of a reason to worry about your save data if their Switch breaks or gets stolen. NES and eventually SNES games that gets expanded upon periodically. Voice chat through a smartphone app, great way to disappoint fans, love that. And special offers with products like wireless NES controllers and games like Tetris 99. Ooh, and also special gear for Splatoon 2. Truly the best of its kind. However, while I was one of the very few individuals at the time who thought there was enough on offer here for Switch Online's $20 price to be justified, why? Because I was turning 14 at the time, I don't know why. But many just didn't feel that way, bombarding the trailer with dislikes, and to an extent I could kinda see why. But over time, Switch Online definitely proved its worth. I know I said I thought it was okay when it first launched, but now with stuff like SNES games and other special offers, I personally feel as if every Switch owner should invest in Switch Online. Now as for the expansion pack, however, that's hard to say. For me, the $30 price increase compared to the $20 price is a bit too high for me personally, especially for what's being offered, but who am I to share my stupid dumb opinions to everyone? You still get N64 and Sega Genesis games, not to mention Animal Crossing and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC, so really, does my opinion matter that much? Yeah, kinda. Now, throughout the past 5 years the Switch has been out for, there has been 3 different revisions for the home console handheld hybrid. And instead of talking about each one in their own section, I'd like to talk about all three of them here. The original Nintendo Switch got a minor new revision in September 2019 that shares many similarities with the original from 2017. Same controllers, same size, same games, it's the same system, just with a better battery and a slightly better screen. It would have been cooler to have even more quality of life improvements here, like 4K support, 128 gigabytes of internal storage, all that cool stuff. But regardless, if you never picked up a Switch before this, then this is the Switch to go with, I guess. And also in September 2019, Nintendo put out the Switch Lite. A bit of a bigger new revision compared to their other one, this time keeping the Switch's portability aspect intact, but not its home console aspect. Even if you have a dock, the Lite won't connect to a TV. The nerve of Nintendo releasing a new Switch that completely removes the entire point of the system and reselling it for $100 less. But in a lot of ways, this was a genius idea, especially for the younger audience who enjoys a Switch. It's more budget friendly, and it's the best way to play Switch games portably. However, with the lack of TV connectivity and the controllers not being detachable this time, some games are just flat out unplayable. And the only way to make them playable on a Switch Lite is to buy a pair of external controllers and something to charge them with. And that will most likely cost even more than just purchasing a regular Switch on its own. Plus, if you're doing multiplayer on this thing with only this one screen, then you might as well just get the regular Switch. However, if you're having a hard time choosing between which one to get, I would do some thinking. The regular Switch is $300, sure, and has the ability to connect to a TV, but the Lite is $200 and it doesn't. It's something I would think long and hard about. The Switch OLED, which came out 2 years after the Lite and is the biggest Switch around. Literally. It's slightly bigger with a width of 7 inches compared to the 6.2 inches, I think, of the original. And coming equipped with an OLED screen making some games pop with their colors and contrasts, and also having other quality of life improvements as well. 64 gigabytes, better audio, a better kickstand, a LAN port, and having a white dock that always gives me Wii vibes. That's not a bad thing, I love the Wii. But it's just odd how this revision of the Switch has all these quality of life improvements when the Switch from 2019 also should have. And considering this is $50 more, I think it's worth considering. I don't actually own the damn thing though. We're really going to do this every time, aren't we? Now, when you stop and think about it, the 3DS lasted a very long time. It released in the Wii era and continued throughout the Wii U era and even the Nintendo Switch era. It basically lasted throughout the entire 2010s. Until September 2020, where Nintendo announced they'll stop production for the little handheld system, which many were thrilled about because that meant the rest of the company's development efforts were going towards the Switch, and that was great. But others, myself included, were a bit sad to hear this news. Now, yes, of course, not all game systems last forever, but I'm gonna miss the pure excitement and surprise that went into new 3DS releases during the Switch era. Even if the last few Nintendo licensed games that released on the system were pretty unnecessary, this is a pretty big part of the Switch's lifespan for me personally because for the longest time, the 3DS was just coexisting along with the Nintendo Switch, and now the Switch is Nintendo's main focus. So it's going to be weird not getting any more 3DS games or systems produced anymore. And to add insult to injury, Nintendo announced that they're going to shut down the 3DS and Wii U eShop about a year from now. But it's okay. But now, let's rewind the clock for a second and travel back to a simpler time. 2001, where Animal Crossing makes its debut on the Nintendo GameCube. There really wasn't anything like it, and at the time, living in a virtual village where the most fun you get out of playing the game is nothing, the series was such a good idea for the Nintendo that the series continued throughout the later years. There was one on the DS, one on the Wii, one on the 3DS, and of course the Nintendo Switch. Now let's fast forward all the way back to March 2020. I consider this one of the most important moments in Nintendo Switch's history. Not because of the game itself, no. The game itself is great and all, truly it is. It's just the time it released in was why it was so important. March 2020 was a strange time. I don't want to get too in-depth about it as I don't like covering real-world problems on the channel, but man, it was just a strange time all around. Being locked indoors, lockdowns, quarantining, it was just crazy all around, alright? And it seemed like there wasn't going to be anything to keep us from getting restless. But then Animal Crossing New Horizons released, and suddenly everything changed. Instead of interacting with real-life people in the real world, you can virtually interact with virtual neighbors on a deserted island. This game exploded in terms of popularity. This was the game to get during this time. And of course, the Switch was hard to find as well, which wasn't nice for people who wanted one, but for people who already had a Switch, it was perfect. And you know what? The game is still great. Now, I can't talk about everything unless I wanted to take up a good 6 hours of your day, but for the biggest event that happened in the Switch era, at least in my opinion, was huge. Now, throughout this video, I listed some of the biggest events in the Switch era and are in no particular order. However, I'm breaking the rules a bit here, as this event is the biggest event that has ever happened in the Nintendo Switch era. In my opinion, of course. Gotta get that out of the way. Now get ready for it, because the biggest thing that ever happened in the Nintendo Switch era was undoubtedly the system's launch. What were you expecting, a joke? I'm not kidding. The Switch's launch in March 2017 is the biggest event in the Switch era, and out of everything else that happened within the past 5 years, it had to be this. But coming off of the heels of the Wii U era, where Nintendo struggled to sell the system to as many people as who bought the Wii, that was where the Switch was going to be the hero that would save Nintendo, and save them it did. The Switch was a massive success, now surpassing even the Wii's lifetime sales. That is no small accomplishment. But can you blame everyone for wanting one at launch? You got a $300 system that can switch from a home console to a handheld console. And you got a fully fledged Zelda game at launch too, plus other cool games like Snipper Clips and Super Bomberman R. You really had an incentive to want to pick up the Switch at launch. And even now, it has some of the best games ever made on it with some killer exclusives to boot. The feature of switching between home console and handheld is still eye-catching and cool 5 years later, and Nintendo's slogan for the system dubbed "Finding Your Way to Play," and with the system still getting killer exclusives even now, I could definitely see the Switch lasting for another 4 to 5 years. For sure. Happy anniversary, Nintendo Switch. Here's to 5 more years of unforgettable experiences and memories with your endless library of games. But if I'm wrong about the Switch lasting longer than intended, then I guess now you'll know who to blame for putting that idea in your heads. But I won't be sorry, though.
And that's going to wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed the video, then please consider subscribing and checking out my other videos on my channel, where you'll find more videos like this one. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.